So I finally played Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, and 3 back to back to back in anticipation of the launch of Metal Gear Solid Delta. Yes, I finally played these games. I'd never played them before. Now, I filmed a whole video on this a couple of months ago in anticipation of the launch of Metal Gear Solid Delta. And guess what? It is out. Reviews are in, and things look good for the remake of Metal Gear Solid 3, and I cannot wait to play it. So what I thought I would do is come in and sort of revitalize this video and take you through my whole experience, because it was unbelievable. I absolutely had a blast playing these games, and I think now more than ever these games are relevant in today's 2025. We talk about the deep state and government takeover and all of this, right? So I think these games are now more relevant today than ever before. I loved these games, and I have a lot of thoughts about them. So yes, I wanted to share with you my total experience playing these games right on the heels of the launch of Metal Gear Solid Delta. And it's funny, there are no spoilers. So I really went to great lengths through all three of these discussions in this video that you're about to see. No spoilers at all. And which led to a lot of you leaving comments saying, hey Clayton, I don't know if you know this, but in Metal Gear Solid 3, you're not playing as Solid Snake. You're playing as someone else. And I know that. I just didn't want to spoil any of it. But so a lot of you were like, hey Clayton, I don't know if you know this. You're not playing as Solid Snake. You're playing as his dad. Okay, I get it. I know. I just didn't want to spoil anything for anybody. So there are no major story spoilers here at all. No deep dive boss discussions at all. Like, I really wanted to just give you my overall experience of playing these games. So without further ado, here is my look back at playing Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, and 3 back to back to back with no breaks in between. These I went right 1, 2, 3. Enjoy.
Snake! Snake!
I'm here. I'm just 26 years late to the party. Yes, Metal Gear Solid released in 1998 on the PlayStation 1. It was one of the most intense stealth action cinematic gaming experiences ever made, and 26 years later, I'm finally tackling this series for the first time. In 1998, I don't know how I missed it. I was at the University of Pittsburgh at the time working on a journalism degree, and this game somehow missed me big time. So I'm looking to change all of that. Hey everyone, I'm Clayton Morris. Welcome to my little gaming channel here, where I talk about retro games and new games and just kind of chill, hang out and talk about video games. So please subscribe if you're into that sort of thing. So today, I want to talk about this, which is the Metal Gear Solid Collection. I played it on the PS5. Now, I just completed all 3 of the Solid games on this disc. Yes, I just beat Metal Gear Solid 1, Metal Gear Solid 2, Sons of Liberty, and Metal Gear Solid 3, Snake Eater. And yes, I played them back to back to back with no other games in between. I simply couldn't stop playing these games, which speaks volumes about this volume. So how many of you have played the collection like that, back to back to back? Let me know in the comments below. So I want to talk about each game and the collection as a whole experience and whether or not you should buy it. But first, let me give you a 30,000 foot level jump out of an airplane Snake style take on all 3 games, playing all 3 of them at one time. Okay, this is the 30,000 foot level view of this. And there's no story spoilers in this review, by the way. I'm assuming many of you have probably already played these games and you want to see, hey, what does a newcomer think about them? That's me. But maybe you've never played them and you want to have that same experience that I had with these incredible stories. So no spoilers here. However, I will talk about some of the bosses and little things like that, but I'm not going to go too deep into any of the bosses. I'll maybe talk about 2 or 3 of them scattered across all 3 games that kind of stood out to me, but I'm not going to go deep in story, so don't worry about that. Okay, so 30,000 foot level to start here. I think, playing these games, these 3 games back to back to back like this, gave me a kind of superpower awareness about how this series evolved. I mean, many of my friends who played these games back in the day had to wait years between each game. And that's amazing as well, right? Delayed gratification to experience these games. They probably couldn't wait till the next one came out. But for me, it was kind of like binge watching an amazing series on Netflix. I didn't want to stop. So back in early March, I started playing Metal Gear Solid, the first one, and finished it about a week later. And when I started playing it, I thought, I'm just going to play this one game, and then maybe next year I'd jump into Solid 2, Sons of Liberty. but right as soon as the credits rolled, I couldn't wait to play the second game. It was amazing to see the gameplay, the control improvements from 1 to 2, and there's no way I would have been able to garner that experience if I waited a long time in between these playthroughs like that. So I'm thrilled that I started playing 2 right away. Much of the menu system, the codex, the items were the exact same, but the controls were noticeably improved, and of course, the graphics. Huge leap forward in graphics. I mean, we're talking about going from the PlayStation in 1998 to the PlayStation 2 graphics in 2001 on one disc. And now you can see Snake's face. And then you get to jump into Metal Gear Solid 3 in 2004, again, on the PS2. So a 6-year sort of gap experience on one disc, played back to back to back. It was a really magical experience and something I've never done before playing video games. Okay, so let's talk briefly about each game, and then I'll touch on the collection as a whole and some of the cool bonuses that you get on this collection. So let's start with Metal Gear Solid for the PlayStation. Released back in 1998, it remains an iconic masterpiece that I've heard about for decades from people. You gotta play this game! You know, you go to different conventions and you see people dressed up as Snake, right? So I knew right out of the gate that this game was going to be amazing. It immediately sucked me into this world. I love how over the top it is. It's a game that knows it's a video game. It knows how to have fun. It knows how not to take itself too seriously, but at the same time, handling some pretty big geopolitical topics. Even voice actor David Hayter, who plays Snake, knows how to strike the right tone. Just pitch perfect. I'm Solid Snake. I'm coming for you.
Okay, let me try to say this another way. Stay the hell out of my way.
He's got that, you know, just over the topness about it. It's so great, right? And he knows he's hamming it up on purpose, and I love that about it. You know, when I first started playing Solid 1, I couldn't figure out how to move. I popped up out of the water area into a loading dock, and I died like 10 times because I just couldn't figure out how to move to attack. I was laying on the floor as these guys were coming up and shooting me in the head. I couldn't figure it out. I had to go back to my 1998 brain, you know, playing Tomb Raider or other PS1 games to try to wrap my head around the controls here. This is how the game was. And as a modern gamer who enjoys playing Helldivers 2 with my friends, I couldn't imagine trying to control my Helldiver the same way you control Solid Snake. I'd be dead in 2 seconds in Helldivers if I had to control the same way. The controls are incredibly difficult. I'm just going to come out and say it. But again, once I figured it out, and once I realized that I cannot swing the camera around to spot an enemy, that I just had to get over it and deal with it and said, okay, this is how it's going to be, then it's not going to be that easy. This is part of the fun, part of the challenge of playing retro games. Suck it up, softy. So I did. I really think that if this game had modern controls, I could have beat the game in 1/10 the time. I'm just saying, to be able to pull out my sniper rifle, go back, move around, swing the camera around, I would have been able to clear levels like a champion. But instead, I'm using PS1 controls. I'm just saying. So controls, difficult. Got it. Stop being a baby. Now the storyline, amazing. You can really see why this is hailed as a landmark in the stealth action genre. The game follows the story of Solid Snake, a retired soldier, one of the coolest video game characters I've ever played. Seriously, Snake might be at the very top of my list now for favorite video game characters. So Snake is called back into action to infiltrate a nuclear weapons facility, Rambo style. One of my favorite movies growing up. As a child, Rambo. And you have to stop a group of terrorists from launching a nuclear strike. Now, as Snake delves deeper into the mission, he uncovers a huge web of intrigue, and there's a good amount of backstabbing and betrayal, and a lot of Jason Bourne-level conspiracy that spans decades. So you learn about all of these pieces in due time as the game unfolds. This is not some crappy narrative. It's an amazing story that explores the idea of warfare, those that you're loyal to along the way, you're breaking some loyalties here, you're sacrificing certain relationships, and a whole lot more. Again, this is a fantastic world that you're entering here in the Metal Gear series. I had no idea what I was in for with all of the cutscenes and the cinematics. Holy smokes, this game is loaded with them. It's also worth noting that this is the first Hideo Kojima game I've ever played. Yes, Death's Stranding is also on my backlog, but these cutscenes are beautifully acted, and it really helps increase the tension and the atmosphere that kept me on the edge throughout this entire experience. So let's talk about the stealth action. Wow, not easy. I kept trying to brute force my way through some early stages, and not going truly into stealth mode. Once I submitted to the fact that I needed to be quiet, I needed to hide, I needed to sneak up on enemies, the game really started clicking for me. Waiting as an enemy walks by before sneaking up on him from behind to do him in. This first game really doesn't want you to fight. It really wants you to avoid at all costs fighting enemies until you get up to boss battles, which then you're absolutely fighting them. But it really wants you to avoid enemies as much as you can. And it wants you to avoid cameras that are scanning you. Like, you really want to be in hiding here. You can also use all sorts of amazing items to distract or hide from your enemies. I found a cardboard box at one point that I ended up using throughout the game. I thought how hilarious and over the top this was. It also forced me to be incredibly patient. Sometimes I'm hiding under this cardboard box, waiting minutes for a scene to clear out before I could take the box off, and then move again. Little did I know, by the way, until after I was finished, that this box would become an iconic symbol of this game, and it appears in all of the Metal Gear games in this collection.
You'll just feel more comfortable in the box.
Interestingly, I found hiding in the box in Solid Snake 1 to be highly effective. Very rarely would I get noticed or trigger an alert. But in the next game, in the third game, 2 and 3, I felt like the box worked far less well. In 3, I felt like the box only worked if you were hidden in another room entirely, and only you were in the middle of a caution sign, not a full red alert. So I'm sure Metal Gear fans will give me more details about the box techniques in the comments below. I'm sure you will. But in Solid Snake 1, the box is the bomb. Use it as much as you can. It's hilarious. It's a lot of fun. And I love the guys would walk up to you. It's just a box. It's just a box. It's just a box. So you'll find a full arsenal of items that you can use in this. Grenades. Chaff grenades that block electronic surveillance like cameras and sniper rifles, RPGs for taking down helicopters, and more. I found myself using the claymores a lot. I picked them up from the snowy area, the snowy minefield area, and then I would place them in the paths of enemies during certain maze-like sequences where they're following me or I'm kind of hiding behind walls. So I'd place claymores and try to avoid them, and then they'd walk right by them and blow up. So I've heard some of my friends say that they never use claymores at all. Again, this is why this game is amazing. You kind of need to figure out your own way of stealthing around, and I really appreciated that. Metal Gear Solid 1 has such an amazing level of detail that I don't recall experiencing in other PS1 games that I played at the time. I'd really have to rack my brain to think about PS1 games and if they had this level of it, but every little aspect of game design is here. Climbing through air ducts, awesome boss battles with amazing music that keeps my heart racing the whole time. Triggering red alerts caused my heart to jump every time without fail. Oh! That guy saw me, now they're going to be coming running out. I got to go hide. Where's my box? Again, not going to say too much about bosses because you have to experience them for yourself. But holy smokes, there are some crazy bosses in this series. Psycho Mantis? I mean, like, what the heck was that? Psycho Mantis? Creepy, amazing boss? Breaking down the fourth wall of video games? Like, there are some crazy surprises with this boss battle that you just need to experience for yourself. I'm not going to ruin it for you at all, but it's crazy. I can see why Metal Gear Solid 1 is celebrated as one of the greatest video games of all time. After I beat it, I just couldn't stop thinking about it. The story, the atmosphere, the music, it all really left a mark on me. You're in this world. You're really in this world, this snowy environment to stop a nuclear strike. It's crazy. All right, the very same day that I beat Metal Gear Solid 1, I immediately just installed the other game here on the disc, Metal Gear Solid 2, Sons of Liberty. And it was the weekend, and I had just said, you know what, I'm going to go for it. Again, I thought I was going to only play one and then put this game away for a year or two and then play part 2 at some other stage down the line. Nope. Now, this version of Metal Gear Solid 2 is based on the PS3 remastered version that was released, so the graphics are a step up from their original release on the PS2. And jumping into this storyline felt like I was going to see a sequel to your favorite movie. It immediately puts you right back into the atmosphere like a John Wick movie or Mission Impossible. You know the music, you get the ambiance, you know what you're in for, right? You're going to enjoy the heck out of this because this is a Kojima game. He can't just make it easy on you, as I've now learned about Kojima. Again, never played a Kojima game before, but now I know why people get their feathers ruffled by him, okay? That's how he is, right? And so you think, you're just going to jump right into this, and then he gives you a crazy swerve right out of the gate. I mean, where the heck is Snake? Where is Solid Snake, the character that I fell in love with in the first game? David Hayter voicing him. Where is Snake? Snake! Snake!
Snake, what's wrong? Snake! Snake!
Again, I'm not going to give you any spoilers for this game, but I can't review this game. You're looking at game footage here, and you're going to be like, why the heck? This character looks totally different. That's not Snake. So you can't really do a review of this game and try to hide the fact that Snake is not the guy you're playing, okay? You're right. Again, I'm not going to ruin anything, but this game follows the character called Raiden, who's a rookie agent who's thrust into this conspiracy to find a new prototype weapon. He has to uncover who's behind a mysterious globalist organization called the Patriots, who are running everything. Let me just say, this game felt like it was just written right now, this year. I mean, globalist cabal of deep state nut jobs who are trying to ruin our lives. I mean, this is like Klaus Schwab at the World Economic Forum trying to control everything we do right now.
I see the need for a great reset.
So this game doesn't feel dated at all. In fact, it feels incredibly fresh given the state of the world right now. So let's talk about the controls in Sons of Liberty. Thank goodness we now have new first-person aiming techniques. This was one of my biggest frustrations with the first game. The enemies got a lot smarter as well in this game. The AI doesn't just let you hide in a box all the time and get away with it. The combat is much more improved, and now playing with Raiden, you can do this fancy cartwheel move to dodge away from attacks, also cartwheel and kick some guys right in the head. One of my favorite things to do is to use sniper guns, and in Solid 1, using the sniper gun was a real pain in the neck. You had to take some medicine to avoid anxiety, so you weren't shaking the sniper rifle the whole time. Not a fan of it. I love sniper games, and here it is much, much improved, and there's a really cool scene that you really need to use the sniper rifle to get through, and I loved that scene, by the way. What's crazy about this game is that you're on a giant ocean drilling facility the whole time, stuck in the middle of the ocean, navigating your way along catwalks and mess halls. It really has like a claustrophobic feeling to it that makes for some tense moments, really tight quarters. This is not a cruise ship. Everywhere you turn, there are guys and drones in the sky that want to kill you, okay? There's no cruise director here. And remember I said in the original game, they really didn't want you to fight anyone. Well, that's not the case in this sequel. Now you can decide your approach. Different missions, different ways. You can go stealthy, and you can infiltrate certain spots, or you can go right up to guys and blow them away. So I kind of chose a mix of both depending on the situation I was in. There was one incredibly frustrating room with a balcony. It was a small little room, has a staircase. There's a lot of boxes in the middle. I kept having to come back to this room. I died a lot in this room. Again, I kept getting spotted. And like I said, if I could just have that camera like that we're used to in modern games where I can just swing the camera around and see my whole 3D environment there to look around, I could have easily gotten through these areas, but you just couldn't do that. So there's two guys standing right near you that you don't know are there. And I just kept getting killed over and over again. And look, I'm sure I was not using the controls to the best of my ability. I'm sure there are probably a lot of you Metal Gear Solid fans who could tell me that I did it wrong. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, I could have really used some of those modern controls so as not to be killed in certain areas over and over again. Anyway, the boss fights in this game, they take craziness to the next level. And again, I'm not going to spoil the story, but I just have to say there's one battle with the Fat Man on roller skates, okay? He's like a bomb maker. That battle was hilarious and fun, and it was really just amazing character design. He's a fat bomb expert that spins around and around on a helipad, planting bombs, wearing a giant bomb suit while drinking a cocktail and using roller skates. Like, what? And that's just the beginning of the weirdness in this game. Hey, by the way, one little tip for you. Anytime you defeat an enemy, put away your weapons, like unequip any weapon that you have, and then press the square button and you can actually pick up the enemies and kind of drag them, hide them. You can put them in a closet if you want to so other people don't see that one of their men is down. But every time you pick up an enemy and drop the enemy, they'll release an item. It's a great way to get ammo and grenades and food. And I wasn't doing it at all in the first game. And I started maybe halfway through Solid Snake 2 to start doing it. It's like, oh my God, once I started doing this, I never ran out of ammo again and food and everything else. Sons of Liberty is a narrative triumph, in my opinion. Like I said, it's perfect for the time we're living in right now. It doesn't feel dated at all. Felt like it was written last week. And don't ever let someone say video games aren't intellectually stimulating. Metal Gear Solid 2 is the height of intellectual stimulation. Until, of course, we get to Metal Gear Solid 3, Snake Eater. Holy cow, Snake Eater. Released in 2004 for the PS2, 6 years after the original Metal Gear Solid. Now, Snake Eater is a masterclass in over-the-top storytelling, gameplay, visuals. It takes everything I loved about those first 2 games, and it just takes it to a much deeper thematic level. This is not some surface-level game going on here. This version on the Master Collection is also based on the PS3 remasters of the PS2 games, so it includes all of the bonus content as well. So you get everything in this version, just like the last game. This game is set in the 1960s, which instantly makes a spy game more interesting in my opinion. This is James Bond era spying stuff right here. Cold War. It's Kennedy versus Khrushchev. It's a prequel, by the way, to the very first Metal Gear Solid game. So now we're going back. It's a prequel. And I didn't see that coming at all, by the way. I mean, we had Snake as a protagonist in the first game, fell in love with that character. Then we get Raiden in the second game. And then we get our man Snake back again in this game, learning his origin story. It's an amazing game. So why the name Snake Eater? Oh, you'll find out. You'll find out soon enough. So in this game, you're playing as Snake, once again, a CIA operative who has to infiltrate the Soviet Union. It's the 1960s after all, so of course we're going after the Russians, like we are again right now, and you have to rescue a defected scientist, stop a nuclear threat. But this time, instead of being stuck in a few buildings like in the first game or a giant ocean, oil rig, this time you're in the jungle and there's hidden enemy cement bunkers and buildings deep in the forest. Totally different. And all of the usual items here are available to you this time, but gone is the map in the upper right-hand corner of the screen showing you enemies coming and going. Now you have to spot them for yourself, either with your own eyes or using sonar, which beeps loudly and lets you get caught if they hear it, or thermal goggles or other means, but no moving map like in 1 and 2. This was really hard to get used to, by the way, but I think it makes the game better because why in the world would you know that there are 2 guys on a balcony behind a brick wall anyway, right? You need to figure it out. You have to figure it out with your stealthing, your tools in your backpack. And I kind of love that. This game also gives you camouflage. Depending on the outfits you have on and how prone you are hiding in the lush jungle overgrowth, you can become almost invisible. So if you're up on your knees, you're not so much hidden, but if you dive down into the undergrowth, you're really hidden. And you can pick face paint to give you an even more camouflage look. Also, while you're on the ground, you can use your knife to interact with the environment in a way that you couldn't before. Now, you can cut mushrooms to eat or kill snakes. Yes, snakes. You're going to eat a lot of snakes in this game. Some taste better than others, and they'll refill your stamina bar as well. Be careful though, because if you caught a rabbit or a snake an hour ago and you've moved, multiple levels through the game, some of that stuff might start rotting in your backpack. So you'll want to make sure you get rid of it before you eat it. I made that mistake. Got a bad stomach ache at one point from eating some rotten food. Make sure it's not rotting when you eat that food. Speaking of stomach aches, Metal Gear Solid 3 also adds in this whole new cure section of the game. This was honestly my least favorite part of the game because as I'm being attacked or poisoned, now I need to kind of leave the gameplay and I have to go into the menu to disinfect my gunshot wound and then stitch myself up, and then I kind of return to the gameplay. I didn't like being taken out of that action, but hey, Kojima wanted to try something new and unique, and I respect that. I've never experienced that in a game before. I just was not a fan of it. Especially if you had 30 gunshots or something, you're dealing with that for like 5 minutes. It just takes you out of the flow of the game. Now, this game is filled with espionage, backstabbing, a lot of moral ambiguity here, really blurring the lines between right and wrong. It kept me on the edge of my seat throughout the whole game. There was a compound that I chose at one point to infiltrate Rambo style in the middle of the jungle. This section took me hours to complete. I kept getting killed here, but I love levels like this because I know when I'm dying in a level like this, it's because of me. It's not because the game is too hard. No, it's because I'm doing something wrong. And it really forced me to figure out a new way to take out these guys. Do I maybe first go around the perimeter to take these guys out? Do I hide in the trenches here? Do I just brute force it and grab these machine guns and then take out all 20 of these guys at once? Well, that's not going to work because what if they hit me from the side? So all of these things with a bit of a learning curve on that particular level, and I loved it. You know, these games don't take themselves too seriously. Like finding the crocodile hat, using that to sneak up on enemies in a swamp. I mean, look at this. It's ridiculous. And it's awesome, by the way. I love that part of the game. I want a crocodile hat. I want to buy one so I can just put it on and scare my kids in the pool. Wouldn't that be fun? This game also pushes the boundaries with some sexiness. Yes, in 2024, it's refreshing to see a man and a woman having some romance. Snake is a man, Eva is a woman, and there are some steamy scenes. And it adds a phenomenal layer of depth to the characters that I'm there for. I'd be remiss once again if I didn't mention the boss fights in this game. There are some crazy ones in this game, like an already dead guy called the Sorrow. Easily one of the most unique boss fights I've ever had, and it's not quite a boss fight, but you'll see if you play it. He sends an army of dead soldiers towards you as you have to make your way through this like swampy area, like a little river. And I learned later that if you killed a lot of enemies, the more ghost enemies would be coming your way, and if they touch you, of course, they take away your HP. But here's the thing, throughout the game, if you defeated enemies non-lethally, like with tranquilizers or chokeholds, or you knock them out using close quarters combat, then they won't be dead, and you won't see many ghost enemies. So it turns out that I killed a lot of guys. So they are here, they're ghosts, they're super creepy, and they're coming at you and talking to you, and it was pretty darn creepy. That really, though, is a metaphor for this game. You can really choose different paths through the whole game. You can kill a lot of bosses in the boss fights, and you won't get rewarded with cool camouflage. But if you beat them with non-lethally, with like tranquilizers or close quarters combat, then you'll get those items. You'll pick up some additional items, killing them non-lethally. Pretty cool. And talk about not taking yourself too seriously. There is a hilarious scene where you start climbing up a ladder, and you just keep going and going and going. I thought there was something wrong with the game at one point because the ladder just kept going. I kept looking around. I looked down, looked up. No end in sight to this ladder. I couldn't believe it. Turns out this is one of the most iconic ladder climbing scenes in any video game in history, but I didn't know it. I thought something was wrong with the game until I got to the top and I looked all the way down. Pretty crazy. It's not all just about camouflage and hiding in the forest. In this game, you're also dressing up as a scientist, having to infiltrate labs, pretending to be one of them, but not showing your face enough that you'll get called out. So that stealth action part is actually pretty intense because you're walking through offices and interacting with guards and scientists who are doing the work, and they're like, hey, who's this new guy? Who are you? Who are you? It gets pretty tense actually at different parts, but it's hilarious to have Snake wearing a scientist outfit and then keep pushing up his glasses at certain points to just look more like a nerd. I won't show you the ending of this game. I won't show you the boss fight ending in this game, just to know that it's powerful and it's unlike anything I've ever seen before in a game. It's beautiful. So I won't show it to you. I won't, as much as I want to, I'm not going to show it to you. So let's just talk about this collection as a whole. I have to say, the fan service extras are really impressive here. I didn't care about them at first because, well, I didn't know anything about the games. So, you know, I'm not going to dive in and read some graphic novels. I didn't care. But after completing the games, I had a ton of fun going through the extras in this collection, like the series of graphic novels. There's 4 master books in here as well. The scripts for the original games, super cool to look at, you know, if you're a fan. It's not something I'm going to dwell on for a long time. It's got a digital soundtrack. The music is great in this. So if you want to listen to the soundtrack, you can do that thanks to this. I picked up the day 1 edition, so I got a few extra bonus tracks. There's lots of cool extras in this game. Now, from everything I've read, Konami said they didn't want to mess with the games at all. They modernized them for an HD experience, but they didn't want to change them in any way. They kind of maybe touched up a few little areas, they said, but I'm glad I got to experience them in their original format like this. But man, a full HD remake of these games would be amazing at some point, like what they did with Resident Evil 4, like a modern overhaul of the game. Could you imagine that? Holy smokes, that would be amazing. Now, the collection has a total of 7 games. I know I only talked about the solid games, 1 through 3, here on this disc, but they do include the original NES Famicom games as well, and the MSX computer releases of the Metal Gear games. These are those top-down games. I played a little bit of these games as well, the top-down games. They reminded me a lot of Ikari Warriors for the NES, one of my favorite NES games that my friends and I used to play for hours and hours. Again, I have the original NES carts of Metal Gear, so that's not why I bought this collection. I bought this collection to play the Solid games, but it's awesome that you can play these NES and Famicom versions and the MSX versions as well if you want to. Look, I'm sure that hardcore fans will find something to nitpick here, but as a newcomer, this is a perfect collection to jump into this series. I loved my time with Metal Gear 1 through 3. This says, of course, Volume 1 on it. There's a big 1 on here. Konami is clearly working on the next collection. I can't wait to see what games they put on here. So let me know your thoughts on these games. Do you own the Metal Gear Solid Master Collection? What are your thoughts on going back to these games or playing them for the first time? I can't wait to hear your assessment of it. And, maybe share some tips and tricks on these games with me. Some things maybe I missed. Let me know down below. Thanks, guys. I hope you enjoyed my review of the Metal Gear Solid 1 Master Collection. We'll see you next time.